Didn't print the agenda.
Oh, here.
All right, put everything else. But thank you. All right. Call to order. I call the Fairhaven Environmental Commission July 12th, 2023 meeting to order. Sunshine law notice is here. This is a regular meeting of the Environmental Commission of Borough Fairhaven. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this meeting on July 12th is available by call-in phone number or through Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions and comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raised hand button and will be called upon at appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Time, and the Star Ledger on January 26, 2023, posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Environmental Commission Secretary is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Michael DiMichelli. Here. Kelly Flanagan, absent. Betsy Murray. Here. Brian Olson.
Here.
Gary Patterson.
Here.
Jonathan Peters.
Here.
Brian Rice.
Here.
Ralph Lindrum. I think that's you, Ralph. I'm here at the meeting, though. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the June 14 meeting minutes. Anybody have any additions or corrections? Excuse me. So please strike those into approved.
Motion to
corrections. Motion to approve. Thank you. So current business. I wanted to bring something up that we I think it's much better and more personal to be here in person, understanding that extenuating circumstances somewhat do not allow that. So I'd like to just make a motion, not a motion, but a suggestion that we try to be here in person. Zoom is here if we need to use it. And by all means, that's better than nothing. So I just wanted to make mention of that. I don't think we have to have a motion to disallow it. I don't want it disallowed because there are some situations that arise. And that's all I have under that. Green team, which is going to be Michael.
Sure. So none of fun has happened since we last talked. We all know that we got the $2,000 grant from Sustainable New Jersey. We need to figure out what we're going to do with that. That's kind of the next thing on our docket. Also, we want to move forward with the sports swap in fall. We've got a lot of great feedback for it. We just need to find a date and figure out when that works.
Have you thought about a broader swap thing? Like, in other words, like a townwide swap?
Like an actual.
Well, like just to say, like you're saying get together, right? And trade
Yeah.
sporting equipment because your
Yeah.
kids are about throwing their pads or whatever, right?
Mhm.
But like also having a day where we put stuff out and people can pick it up and.
I mean.
Reduce, reuse, right? Just take stuff. I'm a scavenger. I scavenge.
Oh.
I have gotten 4 lawnmowers in Fairhaven.
Have you really?
Yeah.
I'm
And the
like,
generator.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know how to clean a car. So.
Yeah, I was out the streets with huge. That's a
I
solid.
think it's a great thought. If the green team wants to work on that.
Just one day, maybe just.
No.
Do a townwide swap instead of just a.
Love where you lived day originally, part of that was going to be more of like a recycling townwide swap. Even bringing like hangers in and shoes specific, because there are different companies, like even Crayola collects markers and pens and stuff like that, so. Good point,
No, I think it's great.
No, and I don't disagree. And
Because
I-
we all have stuff in our houses that we don't want to throw out because they're still good, and if we all think, hey, I don't want to put waste into the waste stream for nothing, right?
Yeah,
And then it's like, okay, well, what else can I do, right? If I know somebody in town would use it.
Yeah, for sure.
Kids
Well, we
climbing
have-
cubes and stuff.
we have a green team meeting on next week, so I'll bring it up. And it's definitely along the lines of what I love too, because I'm definitely a.
So it could just be, put stuff out that you're willing, put a free sign on it in front of your house, and if nobody picks it up by that afternoon,
Yeah,
take it back.
yeah. So we'll definitely think about it, but we do want to have more things like that for sure, and we want to get back to maybe more the bigger idea of having more recycling, like access to recycling. Reuse.
repurpose.
One thing that I thought was interesting that came out of the council meeting was that Middletown is allowed to have styrofoam. We can, as individual residents, we can bring it over there. They just don't have, I guess, an agreement with the different towns. Yeah, but I thought that, I mean, we were doing it anyway, but
Mhm.
it's nice to know that that is an option for sure.
And it should be announced, yeah.
No, I think so. And then I think that was kind of it for the green team, really. Yeah, that's where we are. And we're gonna have another meeting next week, so hopefully we'll get some of the stuff moving forward, but we're a little bit quieter in the summer. That's it.
Thank you. I'm just taking notes.
What's next?
Deer mitigation, so, without having Tracy here, I don't know if she has brought it up to the town yet, Christie.
It was in the last council meeting.
I didn't get to look at the minutes and I didn't attend the meeting, so we'll get an update from Tracy when
I
she
think
gets
it's
here.
best to hear.
Yeah,
It was
Um,
discussed and we had a follow-up with another council member.
Okay.
On a video of our meeting where they spoke.
yes,
So it's
Okay.
out there.
all right, so we're
I think
hopefully.
there were questions for sure.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of questions and Jody Powers and her team have already agreed to come back. And to propose, or to answer questions directly, because it's different coming from them as opposed to me. Although I'm very well versed on the subject. So we'll wait to hear from Tracy. And then see when it's appropriate to invite Jody back and just address the borough council.
It was actually in the River Times, so
Oh, really?
even people who didn't attend the council meeting. They read.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing is, yeah,
Yeah.
is to bring that up and be
All
totally
public meeting
transparent.
recordings are on the borough website too, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, my free time, I'll.
A bunch of the questions were similar to.
There's no probability I have to watch.
But a bunch of the questions were similar to questions we had asked.
Yeah.
I'm
so,
sure, that's why I think it'd be good for them to have more.
100%, yeah,
for-
and do it and have, public aware,
Yeah.
that they'll be here. Because I'm sure there's a lot of, questions that are same and
Some really dumb
most of
questions, I
it
mean,
comes around safety and issues like that.
Is there,
No, that's.
you know,
really
there are like farm sanctuaries,
Yes,
are there sanctuaries for deer, like, could they just?
The problem is it's population.
no, so here's,
Yeah.
here's what happens. is
You know, I just
in-
was trying to.
And I noticed, and I watched it today, I drive my kids to swim at 5:30 every morning. Down in Ocean Township, so sometimes I'll stop and just check things out, so I stopped in Little Silver. And there were 3 ponds and no doe around, there was no sign of a mother, and they're all the same age,
And
so
what do
they
you
all
think
came.
here?
So they used to breed like one, now it's like 2 or 3.
Well, you have to go out with somebody like Brian or my buddy who's a hunter, because they know the patterns.
Yeah.
They'll show the forest totally different than you and I
Yeah.
do. As a number.
Yeah, so, there has been programs that have been tried, with, capturing deer and trying to relocate them, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Putting out salt licks that have, chemicals in them to try to stop them from breeding, whether it's saltpeter, which there was always, being in the Navy, there was always rumors they put it in our eggs, but whatever, don't kick me yet. But they've tried so many different things and there's so many of them and they have become very accustomed to, adapting to living in, suburban, rural, less rural areas.
Well, they don't care.
They don't care. You can walk right up to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the only way that has been very effective is to, call them out and have organized hunts. And that's what the state, has said, as well as the county with the county hunt. So this would be mirroring, we already have a model that works with the Monmouth County Park System and other park systems throughout the state. We are one of the most densely populated states, not only with people, but with deer. And it's, everybody says, oh, it's us moving in on deer habitat. It's not, it's the opposite.
The other way, right?
The other way
The
around.
number counts higher today.
Yeah, the accounts are much higher today. But we have had, I talked to some people, in other towns, they have a higher incidence of coyotes. So that's really the only natural predator other than humans.
Right.
That have been able to kind of, keep the population at bay, but it doesn't decrease the population.
Yeah, it's like the feral cat problem, it's hard to deal with in any way. That's,
Feral cats, at least you can trap them and bring them to a shelter or whatever and get them neutered, which is what they did here in
yeah,
Fairview,
the
because
problem
we have
is big, the impact on the natural wildlife.
It is, it
Massive.
is.
And
It
You
is.
don't deal with it. Everybody just want to hear the problem.
Correct, yeah.
The
So-
impact on the bird populations, look at the Audubon Society.
It's everything. Yeah, and it's everything. And with the deer, it's amongst their own herd also, with chronic wasting disease being, a big increase with that, because of the population. And it's just like us, right, with COVID or any other outbreak of an influenza or whatever. So, it's better to call them out. It is natural because we're hunters. We've always been hunters, humans. And then it's a program where the venison would go to food banks. I didn't want to open this up and just have a free for all for a bunch of guys to go in there and meat hunt. So it would be serving that purpose too. So it would be giving back to the community as well on that side of it. Third Street Trail, I guess the trees are doing well. I haven't been back there. I saw Mark Olson. I don't know if Mark's in the audience, but I saw him. And I didn't get to stop because of going back to Ocean Township because now my kids work at the pool. But I think that the project's been successful. I know that Michelle Decker, who lives right behind the trail, has been all, great about giving access to water. So I don't really have any updates there. ERI,
Well, so we had a copy of
yes,
the ERI, which I went through and kind of went through every section and kind of put some notes in where I thought we needed some revisions or updates or, if there's anything specific that I know that has, changed since this was last written. But I was hoping maybe even just with the hard copy, folks can take a look and.
Are there more hard copies?
Yeah. I don't need it since,
You've seen it.
You've
I've
walked
seen
out.
it plenty of times.
Okay, next time you see me, I promise.
Yeah.
You're gonna get this.
Okay.
I just put a couple copies out to share, I guess. I didn't know if anyone had their own.
yeah.
Didn't it come with the email?
You came with
It did.
email too, but I think some people like.
I have.
Yeah, I'd like to have a hard copy and then I can actually go through and mark it up.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different things that need to be updated. You just. I can't even pinpoint anything specific. I mean, actually, the biggest thing is probably stormwater.
Yeah.
And the rain gardens and even just things along the shoreline that need to be included. That's definitely a big piece.
Does anyone want this?
Yeah,
Jesse?
thank you.
Yeah, Kelly and I were talking about this. We had talked about, as an environmental commission, having possibly hiring someone to complete the ERI.
Yes.
Would the storm, I'm big on stormwater, obviously, because my yard is flooding and River Road, I think, is definitely an issue, a big issue for the town. Could a stormwater kind of plan or water story be done as part of the ERI? Like, could that be lumped in with the cost?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, besides just like the actual written document itself, like we were also talking about like appendices having like, the invasive species management, if we want to include
Yeah.
deer management, if we want to include stormwater, I think all those pieces are like really good pieces.
Yeah.
Kind of as, again, appendices, because those are all helping to make decisions for what we want to do as a town. So,
Yeah,
and honestly, if we're gonna get a consultant to do it anyway,
why not have them help get these plans together?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, stormwater infrastructure is a lot of equipment and, physical assets, so I think that would fit under the inventory.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Very expensive.
And, I've been talking a lot at the council, the last few council meetings, and it's clear to everyone, it's been clear to me that it's multiple issues. It's definitely a lot of different areas
Yes.
that are factoring into what's happening. So
Yeah.
we need a bigger picture.
Yeah, so I think maybe even just highlighting what we want appendices on.
Mhm.
And even just like sending that over, so we can say, hey, like, here's this, like, here's, like, the basic appendices we had, but yeah, we can. Have those attachments as, the invasive species, the stormwater, everything else. Have those little pieces, because then we can kind of like, maybe get outlines together for, here's what we're looking for what we want.
What would we need in engineering for?
I mean-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask on stormwater? I mean, we talked about it a lot, and we have some hard infrastructure, but we also have some soft infrastructure, or, bio management, which actually is pretty good, probably.
Rainwater stuff.
Was it
Yes.
better? But I mean, things like Schwenkers, handles the east and west side of the map.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have a lot of sheet flow into that area, but then it's buffered in
Mhm.
Schwenkers, and then it usually the slower it gets to the river, the better, right?
Yes,
So
We want it
all of
in
that,
ground.
if we pipe that, I don't think we'd be helping it.
no,
We might be, maybe it'd be better also to talk about maybe putting in some natural like fire detention areas up the creek
I
to help slow the flow.
absolutely agree with that, and that's why I want the full picture of what's happening, because I think we're kind of doing this piecemeal, because even with the project that they're gonna fix now on Foreman Street, they are gonna tie in some of the stormwater issues with the project that they got funding for Foreman Street. They found that these pipes were 75 years old, apparently there was like,
That is
like
the
a-
new ones.
well, it's crazy, but apparently I'm gonna get the numbers wrong, but say there was
No,
24-inch or foot by 18
no,
by
24 inch.
24-inch by
good,
18
yeah.
by 24 connected, so.
Yeah, no, they
like,
just put a piece of, they put a stub piece in.
So it's like- So a bunch of things are wrong, it was apparently level, like it was, the grading was wrong, so it had to raise up certain amounts, so there's. Yes, there's major structural issues with the pipes and understanding what they can handle and what's wrong with them, but also I think there are more natural ways that we could be.
So I think
approaching this.
some of that stuff should be in the ERI, like discussing with the infrastructure is like, hey, here's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So then we wanna, when like projects come in, or we wanna like highlight certain things we wanna work on, we at least have that document to like go to.
Absolutely.
So definitely send me notes on that.
Because even when they're talking about like how many years this would be, like at one point, they're like, well, it could be like 5 to 8 years, but before we can address some of this, and that just doesn't seem sustainable.
I mean, it's also intended to be a living document, so this is not supposed to be.
not static.
Yeah, so it's like, I think it's trying to update things, like, I mean, it should be updated within like every 5 years or so.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But things could be updated as we find out more information.
no, they easily could, especially if we have an electronic version that's gonna be uploaded for folks to see online too.
So how did we use this one? This is my,
Well, I mean,
Updated. It's really just,
I think
it's
you're saying, how did you-
existing now.
how did we use it?
They-
We-
We really did.
the idea with having the ERI to begin with is to help for like
Planning.
planning and zoning. For if there's questions and things come up and for projects, they can be like, okay, if it's gonna be in this type of area. What are the issues in this part of town, or what should we be considering for these projects? That's a big point of having the ERI is whenever there are projects in town, we at least have this document.
It's something to refer.
Well, it should be,
to. Yeah, it's a reference.
it's a way for you to communicate to the council and
Yeah.
the zoning. I mean, in other
Yeah.
words, they're not gonna come with every decision, right? And come back to the environmental commission, and say, what should we do?
But at least if you have
But
this.
you're supposed to be, like, I take the planning documents as like, okay, so this is what we're trying to do.
Right, yeah,
And,
exactly.
sometimes it takes a while.
The
It's
big,
not like you can't fix everything in a day, but
but the big missing link has always been getting these other entities, planning, zoning, even the, borough council, council members to refer to it.
well, maybe we should,
And
I
that's
think
what-
one of the
and
things you
that's-
might want to do is go out every year and say, every year in November, we're gonna give an update. And just review the document, just come in and get 15
No.
minutes at the council and just say, I want to remind, everybody, we've been working on this, these are the updates this year and. here's
But I
the
think-
document again.
Yeah, but I think it's up to, and I don't want to point fingers because I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm not on the other boards anymore, is when something comes up, let's say in planning, right? And you say, oh, hold on a minute, let's go to the ERI. What does that say?
Hmm.
But it has to be updated to Jesse's point.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, what is the blueprint or what is the overview of it in the ERI, stormwater, right? What are we doing here? I mean, the greatest example that's a disaster that's affecting your property is what they did on Smith Street and back there on Colonial Court. It's an absolute disaster. They built a pond.
Well, they built a catch basin, which is my backyard.
Right, exactly. So
Right.
it's basically a pond. So if they had, we need more involvement, and this would give us that.
Yeah.
And say, okay, you know, I'm Brian, I'm, you know, I'm the rep from EC. Here's what our take is, without having going to directly to us, you have it in front of you. And say, hey, look, and that's really is the planning and zoning.
Can I ask a question about the Colonial Court example, which you brought up, right? Was it a problem in that our zoning wasn't correct?
Yes.
Or that, you know, in other words, and again, you can't go after the fact and try and.
Well, I'm trying to now.
You know, what you can do is change the rules for the future.
Yeah, they have, they didn't have enough engineered studies to look at how this was going to negatively affect everybody.
Yeah.
In that area.
So that's where, on the planning board, you know, we're all, none of us are experts, we're not engineers.
Right.
But we do have, a planner that we hire, Tucker and Gruel.
Mhm.
Right, so I'll make sure they have this, hopefully they already have it.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to understand the broad strokes of it, but then they can get in the nitty gritty.
It's really an outline, yes, to help guide the process.
Yeah,
And if you look at the beginning of the year, I think, I'm pretty sure Christie had sent it out, like just the whole, like, there's something from Anjek on like being a part of the environmental commission, what that means, what our job is, and part of that is getting the ERI together for the town to help for communicative purposes and whatnot,
And-
to help work together. So, yeah, when projects come up, we at least all have a say in it, and everyone understands what the important issues are coming from the environmental side of the town.
Well, and my hope is that by getting some more, digging more into some of these issues, is that we have a better, broader picture of what our issues are.
Yeah, yeah.
Where like, that's how they're all connected.
Yeah.
And then also,
And how to address it.
and how to address them, and also how they're connected to the other towns too. Yeah, like once we get past, like, how are we connected to, how is our stormwater being affected by Little Silver and Shrewsbury, or, you know.
Yeah, so our priorities, should be highlighted in that, and obviously our priorities change every year, and we have at the end of the year report of what we've been working on and what we're looking to do. But a lot of it's based off of what's like in the ERI, and what's in town, what we're trying to protect and enhance.
so it's a good document that maybe was underutilized.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
All right, well, I'll get this, make sure this is in the planning board. What about zoning board?
Same thing.
They should,
But We don't have a rep there.
We don't, but
Dude, but we don't know.
we don't, we did, when we should.
We should.
Rich Gadella, I imagine he's gotta have this. He's pretty.
Oh, that's something we should convey to him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he just.
Want me to tell you update, or you want me to send a current?
I would just have it, send the current version and say, we are updating it,
Did he have any suggestions, right?
and maybe he has some suggestions.
Right.
On areas that should be updated and.
Or clarified, or, you know.
Whatever, make it,
don't have to-
Here's a question.
we have to make it more usable. for
I
these
mean,
entities.
is there a plan to have another one of those like broad meetings between all the different like
Yes.
committees and whatnot? 'Cause I feel like that, it's not like, I assume like in the fall at some
Yeah,
point.
do it September.
I feel like that would be a good topic just to bring up, like, hey, here's
Yeah.
our ERI. Before we actually hire a consultant, obviously, like, it'd be good to get everyone's kind of comments on what they would like to see in it.
Yeah,
and
shade tree.
shade-
Everybody, that's why that was the intent of the meeting, is to bring all these entities together.
Yeah. exactly.
And I know zoning has been in attendance, as well as.
Sometimes we've had these meetings in the past, multi-area, like we had an issue on McMansions. And then there was very varying opinions about this, and the fact is that the zoning was allowing me, the current, I never upzoned any properties in
Oh, yeah.
town, and we only actually crushed a little bit down on it, and so these houses that are going in at 3,500 square feet, the zoning was already 3,500, but the builders now are building to 3,496. They're leaving a pizza box unbuilt in the game, but the question was, how do you change it? There was a lot of, I don't know if we've ever gotten a consensus, right, on how to.
And that's what I'm not
Yeah,
sure
well,
about.
the envelope, yeah.
But even with like the project that was behind me, I don't know how far, but like what they were off by, like I haven't. been
It
told
doesn't,
that.
that, the issue,
And have
is
those changed, and has that been changed?
the square footage is a different issue. and
Then elevation.
then elevation and what happens.
Yeah, great.
The roof is a roof, all right, so that's your runoff.
Yeah.
What, and then impervious coverage, that's your coverage area. So, anything coming off the roof is clean.
Mhm.
All right, you can put that in a rain barrel, use it, whatever. The big thing is what is mandated for a new project renovation, what have you, to mitigate stormwater. And it should be, everything goes into the ground the best you can, off the, leaders go into the ground and not on the ground to run off into, the stormwater system. So that's the way, and it's pretty simple. It's as simple as that. And yes, it's maybe a little costly if the engineer or architect, deems that it's gonna be too much water and then they have to put in French drains. Well, even pave a driveway. And even if you do gravel, it's still not, and it's still impervious coverage. So it doesn't matter if you pave it or put in gravel, because gravel over time becomes impervious. But there should be a catch basin at the end of it, which is just basically a grate with, that's dug down underneath it with some, 6-inch pipes going into the ground 6 foot. So it's not a huge expense, but what does that do? It doesn't allow the sheet flow from a driveway to enter stormwater system. So it's simple, easy fixes, but somebody has to just say, hey, look, we need to have this.
These aren't simple, easy fixes. There's too much water, like even a catch basin wouldn't. Like
No, you're never gonna, all right, so it's 18.2 million gallons on 1.5 inches of rain in the town. Okay, that's what enters our river. But if we cut that back by 20%, that's a win. Yes, you're not gonna take all 18.2 million gallons of water and put it into the ground, and we end up with
Some base localized sheet flow.
No, so it's really to cut down on sheet flow, and if it's 20%, it's a win. Right? My opinion.
So I'll circulate that to Sandy Papa for the zoning,
Please.
planning and zoning board and the engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we just ask for feedback? We're revising it and ask each of the boards. to give us
Because I highly doubt that we're gonna get in the budgetary constraints that we're living in today. And if we said, it's 50 grand or whatever the number is,
Yeah.
to get that budget item approved to redo the, right, soup to nuts. So we're gonna have to do the best we can, I think, internally. And Tracy will keep running up the flagpole to see what happens if we can hire an outside engineer or
Right.
firm to do it. That's fine, but for the time being, it's up to us really to.
But I mean, obviously, we gotta wrap up the first step of making
Correct.
sure we all, okay, everyone
Yeah,
does input.
everybody just get their input and get it back to.
Highlight our issues and what we wanna highlight.
Do you want me to wait until?
No.
this is comments?
No, I would circulate it.
I think it's
I think-
information.
But it's an information, it's something
And someone else may.
we want to give back.
So, yeah, so I think that's a good opportunity for everyone to provide some comments.
I'll say ahead of the next environmental roundtable.
And then we will discuss it at the
I
environmental
think it's a
roundtable
topic
in
we
September.
should-
Yes.
Yeah,
So you're gonna have to be there.
and on if I can.
Well, give me your dates, we'll put it around your schedule. Thank you. So, F, living shorelines, I don't have anything because it's kind of in the hands of the governing body. To move forward with, the project at, Robards Park.
Here's
So
the,
I'll
wait, here's
wait
the
to hear
question with
from
that.
Tracy. Go ahead.
I think, Chris, you sent some things around, you sent around, like, I guess, the applications, were those draft, or those submitted applications to the DEP, like for, like, I guess, some of the
I
pocket
think
park
they were
things?
submitted.
They're submitted,
See, that's the thing too, is like, it's pointless for us to see it after the fact.
that's correct.
I feel like a lot of these.
I
things-
sent it to Tracy and I sent it to Brian. I circulated those plans to this body in
Yeah,
2018 or something.
Yeah, but
I have my email.
those way.
They're the same plans, man. They're the same plans.
So I just received certified,
but it's
Yeah.
already been sent, so
They-
there's no reason to comment on it, so.
provide legal notification that this application for authorization under coastal general permit
Yeah.
certification 10 be submitted to the NJDEP. So yes, I have spoken with various council members. And talked to them and gave them our concerns, which are basically one major concern is to cut down on the impervious coverage. Especially at the end of these streets.
Yeah.
So,
My
I
only,
did convey that to the mayor and council.
but my only comment is, I think before permanent applications are submitted, we should be able to see a draft.
We are supposed to be,
Again,
They
I
are-
circulated it to your
It
chair.
didn't happen. Yeah,
I circulated it to your chair. Now, what he did with it.
no, but these
That's
plans are
reality
totally
check.
different from OT.
I'm gonna pull them out, Brian. I'm gonna pull them out because I have.
You can pull them out. I
My
understand.
point is,
Yes.
if the body doesn't, the chair doesn't. circulate, that's the whole thing.
It didn't come,
The future.
I got it.
application.
that's 2018.
So it was approved in 2018, but it's just coming to.
It was never approved in 2018. What John is saying, which is accurate, that the sitting chair in 2018 received the documentation of the plans. We did get to see them, but again, so many things have changed since then.
Yeah.
That it's, you're talking about 5 years.
Yeah.
Right, so, almost 6. Excuse me. Navigate River. There's a lot, but I'm gonna try to condense it and not cry, and if I start to cry, then you're gonna have to read this, okay? So I'll start by an email that was received. As you all know, I work very closely with the NJDEP, Bureau of Marine Water Monitoring. The river has been improving for a very long time now, but it's been a slow process, which we knew. In the restricted area of the Navasink River, so if you look at, and let's look at 2017, no. Yeah, 2017,
Wait, I got year round and winter.
well, look at the chart, it says 8 a year.
Yep.
So 11, oh, sorry, Gary. So in the restricted area of the Navasink, so the real quick history, 565 acres were downgraded in 2016 in Navasink River. What I mean by downgrade, this is all relative to shellfish and harvesting of shellfish. So and it's fecal coliform, it's nothing else. We don't look at nitrogen or phosphorus or any of that. So that was downgraded to permanently restricted, could not go into the river and plant west of basically west of the oceanic bridge. In the restricted area of the Navasink River, 9 out of the 12 stations meet the criteria to upgrade to conditionally approved, which means that we can harvest shellfish open, so you can farm to table or seed to table from November to April. All 3 of these stations are in reach of meeting the upgrade criteria. So the max is about 6 points away. So you're talking about minuscule numbers here.
Right.
This is a project that we've been working on for 3 years. So the 31 is, we're talking about geometric means, so it's a 12-month.
Yeah, it's very punishing.
3-year cycle.
Yeah.
So, and that's why it's taken some time, because we have to get the data over a time period. So it's 31 is the geometric mean that we have to meet. Most of these are less than 6 points away. In the prohibited area, 564 acres, which I talked about, was previously downgraded. 6 out of those 7 stations meet the criteria to upgrade the area to restricted. Means that they can harvest shellfish year round, but they have to be either brought to a relay or brought to a deporation plant, which there's 2 of them, and one in Highlands and one in Seabrook. The one station in this area is within reach of meeting the upgrade, so we're gonna get 7 out of 7. We're only 7 points away. Okay. We're so close to not only restoring the river, but also improving water quality to the point of opening up direct harvest, which has never been done. Approved before in anybody's lifetime that we've talked to. And I've talked to people that have been on the river a lot longer than me and are clamors. I know that is a slow process, but as we keep finding and fixing issues in and around the river, we will most definitely exceed our expectations when all this was started. There's no way that I would ever see in my lifetime that we'd have open harvest in the rivers, in our river. So there's been a lot of talk, and I wanted to address this. On another note, I think that they're short-sighted, want to introduce rib mussels into the river. Yes, they will potentially clean up some of the water, but as I've always said, that you have a lifeguard and a doctor. The doctor goes out and retrieves the lifeguard retrieves dead bodies, right? What the doctor does is goes upstream and why are the dead bodies floating down? That's always been my analogy. We have to clean the river first, and then we can introduce shellfish to keep it clean. So they ask the potential to clean up some of the water, but they also have many negative impacts that would have been seen, that we've seen in other areas of the country. Real quick side note, in April, Bill Hedendorf, who wrote this email, had given a talk to other agencies throughout the country, this is basically a pilot project for the nation. With the pollutants, they also filter out all the phytoplankton that is needed for clams and oysters to grow. So it actually would be counterproductive for clams and oysters in our watershed. Also, there's a potential for birds to feed on the mussel beds. They're in the creeks because they're easy to get to and on the banks. And we've been seeing issues with degrading water quality around aquaculture operations due to birds feeding and or nesting on floating gear. So you have to have a bird mini, so you're gonna go backwards and have more fecal matter into the water system. Birds produce a lot of waste and could cause an increase in bacterial loads if there are no bird deterrents. So I wanted to address that. I wanted to bring that up. This shows, the first map to look at real quick is all these X's were stations that did not meet. They exceeded, the winter approved, so they did not meet the geometric mean. So you can see the further west we go, the more problems we have, which we've known. So that's been, and that's a privet, that's the yellow is what we're gonna be conditionally approved probably within, I don't know what time frame, but it's imminent. The second shows the stations that exceed restricted, so you can see the numbers have declined rapidly or greatly. We only have one in our area, which is at McLeese Creek. So even if that doesn't meet the mean, okay, McLeese Creek is the one basically across from Fairhaven.
Yeah.
Okay, that 1007. If that doesn't meet, and we know why it doesn't meet, and it may be an issue that we can't fix. And they'll just draw the line and keep that as restricted. No big deal, because we're getting all that, is that brown? Back, this area here.
And that's gonna be for seasonal use in the inside piece?
The first, well, it'll be eventually it'll go to open harbors.
Really?
Sorry, this explains to me, why is this red though, and this is, what's it, I mean.
It's prohibited. This is all prohibited.
But this is still Fairhaven here,
Yeah,
Yes,
so this.
well, it's not, it's really,
well, that's.
no, it's not, there's really, this is Lewis Point here. So it might include a little bit of Grange, but you're kind of splitting hairs, but this is the area that has always been in question.
Just
that
out
brown
of
area.
curiosity, though, like. I know
Because we're getting the influence from, it's not Fairhaven. Here's the stations in Fairhaven, they all
This is
meet,
Fairhaven water, though, am I crazy? I mean, at the end of the
it's
hand,
everybody's one.
I got it,
okay.
okay, but this is.
But let me back up. As long as our stations meet, all right, all these stations meet the criteria, we're good, okay? This here has always been an issue because of these people up here. Colts Neck, Tinton Falls, Red Bank, but it's a lot less if you look at the other slide. Even with that, you look at the X's, we've gained stations that meet.
What are they?
So we're working, we have to work upstream. So to give you an idea, in May and June, they do swimming beach studies, okay? And they're only done certain times a year because people don't swim in the wintertime. Most people. So there is a swimming beach next to Shrewsbury Yacht Club. And I'll get into that. That's this slide here, our flyer. So that was 200 at the end of the creek, okay? And 200 parts per million. And then as we walk up and do more testing, we hit 700
Upstream.
So that's what we have to find out. So it's the same thing on a larger scale upstream, okay? Think of the river as, it's really not a river, but it is because it's fed by swimming river. Okay, so you just think of that coming downstream, but as we clean up here, we're gonna continue back. This doesn't stop because this gets open.
Yeah,
This will never stop.
but if this is prohibited and this is restricted,
Correct.
this is still getting like better I mean, this is
Yes.
still.
It's still getting better, as you can see by the station.
And are the swimming river studies, these same locations, or?
They're all these locations. all
The
these-
swimming study too, though,
No, they're only swimming beaches.
okay.
So that's separate. This is more restrictive
Mhm.
than a swimming beach. Swimming beach, you can swim at 104. Clams, you need a geometric mean
Do
of
we
31.
have an idea, just out of curiosity, this area, is this swimming, can you swim in this area?
You can swim in any of these areas,
No, but like.
but not within
specifically the-
24 hours of a rain event.
Yes, I remember from last week,
Right.
but, no, but the end of hand, I know I'm harping on hands, but that is like where people do go in hands.
Yes, that's
So,
fine. Not a
can
problem.
you swim there?
Yes. Yes. This has nothing to do with swimming, because you're talking about 31 of a geometric mean as opposed to 104
Right,
for swimming.
Yeah.
As long as you don't drink the
The
water,
104 versus 30, what was it?
31, which is huge percentage. But that's what that gives us the ammunition is the clams. So what do we do about the creek? And I don't know the official name of it. I will endeavor to find out, but I'm gonna call it Dowdy Lane Creek because it's between, or we can call it Dowdy Browns Lane Creek, whatever. So the flyer that Betty Ann, myself, Christie, and the state put together today is going to be circulated in this red area because it's easy to rule out human. And it's also, but that's the easiest one to fix. So we ruled out human hits. So it's a combination of wildlife, which is deer, coyotes, raccoons. There's not much we can do about it. Deer, we're working on a plan, so that will help the river also. But this, what I suspect, and so the only thing we can control is domestic waste, cats and dogs. What in my research and talking to neighbors and friends who live in the area of Dowdy Lane, there are some people and they don't do it intentionally that let their dogs go out back. They do their business. They don't think about picking up because it's their yard. They can do what they want with it. It rains and it washes into the creek. Simple as that. I don't think it's done with any malicious intent. But so it's really, and that's Kelly and I were talking about, just basically giving people a heads up. So this emails, I'm gonna email this to my buddy who has a list of residents, just neighborhood. So he can circulate it and if the green team wants to do this, or I'll do it, is just take a whole bunch of flyers, drop them in mailboxes. It's gonna be on the Nixie and our website. So just to remind people to pick up within, right away.
Do you happen to know how far away you have to be away from water for, let's say someone doesn't pick it up before it's not a problem? That makes sense.
It's always a problem. It just gets diluted if you're it's within, yeah, I mean, but the square, the town's a mile square. So if you look at the red circle, yeah, you look at the red circle, so it's really, yes, it's imminent if you're on Brown Lane or Dowdy or Linden or any of these,
If you're along the creek
if
there.
you're along the creek, it's very,
So the point is, no matter how far away you are.
doesn't matter, it eventually reaches, yes, however, watered down it is, yes, but it all reaches the river eventually. So it's a huge milestone that we are approaching. And if I died tomorrow, I'd be very proud of myself that this is the only thing that I've done for the environment.
So picking away, and you've been picking away at it, right? It's one of
There are plenty of old timers that said there's no way you're going to do this.
amazing. And again, is it gonna be seasonal open at some point first, or is it gonna be?
It'll be seasonal that April to that November to April, and then eventually, if we stay on this track, which we are going to, it'll be open,
Wow,
which has never occurred.
and beyond Oceanica, they can have that open. all year.
That's all, that's good.
It's gonna
that's
go open
still-
year round, it's not. well,
That'll be, yeah, that'll be part of this. So to give you an idea of the scope, it was 564 acres that was downgraded.
Right.
Now we stand a chance to get this 300 and some acres
Yeah,
and the 564, so it's over 800, almost 900 acres will be open on.
really good, really good.
So that's what I have. Thank you. For the river.
And they're very good at that. Very,
Huh?
you plan it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's things to do to suit. Once we get it to these levels, then we can introduce oysters, we can introduce more clams, we can do all that. We have to be very, very careful to not to jump the gun, because what happens when you introduce oysters
Yeah,
to a polluted waterway is now the NJDEP has a potential issue, somebody gets sick. You can sue the state
Yeah.
in a heartbeat, and it's happening. So we can't do any of that yet, and it goes back to my analogy with lifeguard and doctor. Let's clean the water first, keep it clean. To make it even cleaner and keep it clean, we can introduce these other natural elements. But we can't do it prior. So that's it. Planning board update.
One last question.
Yes.
Does Red Bank have an environmental commission? And are they?
I had been in touch, so to give you an idea of the scope of this is that I touch base with almost every borough once a month. Whether it's through he's retiring, but growing up here, I know everybody, for the most part, and so I have open entree to them. They do have an environmental commission. Their boards have been pretty fractured, reading local news, to say the least. But people reach out to me. So what I resurrected in 2019 or 2018 was the Navissing River Municipalities Committee. So it's similar to what we did with the Environmental Commission meeting with all the entities in town. This is two residents, most of the people are on the EC of that town, and one somebody from the governing body, okay, of each town. So it's Cul-de-sac, Tinton Falls, Red Bank, Fairhaven, Rumson, and Middletown. So we all meet.
You're all fine.
So if we have an issue, say, hey, Red Bank, what's going on? And so I built a report with all these people, including Monmouth County, to say, hey, we got an issue here. We gotta fix it.
Well, Red Bank,
The easy part is the human side of it. With bad laterals or bad pipes, and TRWRA is also involved, our reclamation, or sewage authority. Sewage authorities in the towns, because Rumson has their own, Red Bank has their own, but it all goes to river. So they're all, constantly on my radar, and it's really a true testament to somebody cared in the state to really see this through, because there were plenty of times that were like done, just like beating our heads against the wall. And the state, they're so thin with staff, and I just got my buddy, I'm like, dude, we gotta do this, took him fishing, whatever, and built, and we're very good friends. But this is a pilot study for, it doesn't have to stay in the nation, it could be anywhere, it doesn't matter, any waterway. But it's really a collaboration of efforts of people that care and really, show up. But it takes somebody like me to keep it going, to be a bulldog, and be a bulldog when I had to be, and be a puppy when the case, and Clean Ocean Action. They brought it to the forefront. So there was a white paper, Zach Lees was the attorney, environmental attorney at the time. He and I built a very good report, I could Vermont for some reason. But they put together a white paper, and that, because I was always like the boy crying wolf. Nobody listened to me. I'm like, the river's changed because it's my backyard. This is all I know. And nobody, now there's plenty of fish, and eagles are coming back, and ospreys. Yeah, but there's an issue. There's a problem. The river's dying. And then this white paper came out with Clean Ocean Action. And that's when this downgrade happened. And I'm like, here we go. And I like open up. And so Cindy Zip and I got together, and she told me about the NRMC, the Navissing River Municipalities Committee. And I resurrected it, and that's the basis of it. So,
yeah, the guy from Red Bank though found the dog walker that was throwing him in the storm drain.
yeah, so there's all stuff,
So people are aware now.
there's all kinds of stories, that we found that, working with Cliff, who they did not renew his contract, or Darren, McConnell, who I went to high school with, he's the acting borough administrator as well as the chief of police.
Really?
But he's announced his retirement, but it's up to me to get, see who's the next guy, right, that I need to get in tight with, right? Tony Mercandante in Middletown, right? Middletown has issues. That's why McLeese Creek there's maybe areas that will never meet that geometric need for whatever reason, horses or cows, as long as it's not human. There's some things we just can't do anything about. The first success was, I call it Area 51, is a pond, a containment pond on a small farm that had horses on it that changed ownership, and that people were mucking the stalls and throwing the muck on the side of the pond, and the pond would overflow and go right downhill on the roof. So it was, but those were the easy ones. That was the low hanging fruit. Now we're like right at the top of the tree, just picking away. And to have a little creek and ferry, okay, that's easy. That's, we've done this, right? We have the model. Right.
Question,
Yeah.
I know I'm harping on the swimming areas, but like my kid and my dog do go in the
Don't
water.
worry about it.
You're fine.
So
It's cleaner today than it ever has been.
where do? Is there an easy way to locate like where they're counting as swimming beaches though in Fairhaven? Like how do we
It's
know?
on the NJDEP website. The only one that didn't meet criteria at the time, it does meet now, was the swimming beach that they can, next to Shrewsbury River Yacht Club, which is where the creek.
So everyone else in Fairhaven.
Everything's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, just don't, the big thing, if you're concerned with it, don't swim in the river after a major rain
Yes.
event, 24 hours.
I'll just swim
But that's anybody who wants.
Brian.
Right, yeah, stay home. Enjoy your homemade, your man-made large pond.
Yeah.
But I don't care, it doesn't matter if you're Maine or Florida's brutal, because you have runoff, you have what we call a first flush, right? So everything that just sits there until Mother Nature flushes, right? So it's really the same analogy, it's the same as your toilet. You didn't flush it for a couple of days and then all of a sudden flush it, you don't want to be on the other end of that. All right, so it's the same concept, so it's always been, restrict your swimming activities if you're worried about it. To, after 24 hours of a major rain event. It rains a little bit, it's no big deal, but I've never gotten sick. I don't know anybody that's ever gotten sick by swimming in a river. And I have many comments talking to people that they've never seen it like this.
And forgive me if you said this, but is this going in also in the newsletter?
Yeah.
Newsletter.
Yeah, Christie's gonna include it, or with Betty Ann to,
The,
in the new,
the poop.
yeah, the flyer should be located everywhere. Please.
Sure.
Brian,
Yes, planning board. So the last meeting, the main topic that intersects with the EC is the new, or excuse me, the renovated Department of Public Works building. They gave a nice presentation to us. I did raise our concerns that we had talked about and some of the stuff I've just learned. To start off, I would say that the thing that they're trying to do is they're balancing a lot of competing interests. So the costs, so they're going to renovate rather than tear it down and rebuild. The operations are sort of, the building 40 years old and was designed for 40-year-old activity.
it was temporary when they built it.
Was it right?
Yeah, in the 70s. Yeah.
And then the third thing is the environment. They are aware of that, and I'll get to that in a second. And then the impact on the neighbors, that's noise, light, the aesthetics, that kind of thing. So on the environmental stuff, the three topics that either came up or I asked about were sort of runoff and nature, renewables, and then recycling. So we had some wins and some just don't fit into those competing interests. On shade tree, so this is runoff and nature shade tree. They're not going to use any sprinklers. It's going to be all native plants and all drought resistant plants. On runoff, they are going to take, I'm told, 3,000 square feet and return it to impervious. So that will reduce some of the stormwater. Pervious, pardon me.
I do that.
Yes.
I used to. It took me about 2 years.
They're also gonna detain the roof runoff, so that's great.
It's good.
On the renewables, a win and a loss. The roof is gonna be designed to handle solar. We did talk a lot about prepping the facility for EV. So this is not residents to charge vehicles. This is for the trucks that they use. And sort of the consensus that's not financially viable. They're not sure that giant trucks like that will ever be able to be EV. So they're talking about propane and
I agree.
there's a lot of sort of complicated electrician stuff that I didn't get all of it, but it doesn't make sense financially.
No.
And then on the recycling, that was one of the big things I was
Another thing that doesn't make sense.
Which
Recycle. Yeah,
So the cardboard,
unfortunately,
remember the cardboard has to be dry to be recycled.
yeah, they're gonna have.
So I
to
asked
go
about
to-
the cover, and the crane is too tall, so they can't have that, unfortunately, that's what I was told. And then the styrofoam,
That's what I'm talking about.
it's fine.
Yeah.
And then styrofoam, like you mentioned, the interlocal agreement they're working on that with Middletown.
Yeah, that would be great
To allow our town to bring it.
to bring it there. Yeah,
So I think, I mean, generally, it was clearly on their mind, I was happy to see that.
good.
You know, they're aware of best practice.
I was told recently that, you don't really have to prep roofs anymore because solar is so light anyway, that so I'm just interested in what kind of prepping they're doing. If the case
For
is
a commercial use, it would probably be much different
different than,
panels than a.
Some of it involves conduit and stuff where they provide the routes to run the wiring,
okay,
but for heavy equipment, it's gonna be a transition probably to hydrogen or CNG or
Yeah, for the
something
trucks.
else, because the volume, the amount of power you'd have to move is massive
yeah.
over a heavy duty truck.
I got the sense it was conduit.
Yeah,
So
so the
you
conduit
can
is
just
set
run
up.
it through when you decide to put the panels
Got
on.
it, okay.
Not for, the panels are for the trucks, just to generate.
Just
solar
in
power.
general,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
That's great.
Just making sure I'm listening. Council update. I'm not gonna wait. Tracy, we'll have to defer that to the next
Just let me
meeting.
say one thing about the EVs or trucks. I work with the American Trucking Association as a technical consultant. That's who we've been talking a lot about. And first of all, the amount of power you have to move the truck. Think of the battery. It's a Tesla battery times 10.
Yeah.
You know, and charging that thing. I mean, overnight, at least we're in this kind of municipal use, it might actually work. But like the Tesla truck is actually quite literally moving potato chips.
Yeah.
It's a Lay's contract that they have. So it's the lightest possible cargo. You can put it in 18.
It does make sense.
So obviously the ranges are much greater than a normal 18 wheeler weighs 88,000 pounds. And a truck full of potato chips weighs
Whatever,
35.
right.
Obviously not Cheetos.
No, but I mean, it's gonna happen.
Stuff all over.
Yeah, no, it's gonna happen. It's just gonna be probably with CNG, hydrogen, or,
Yeah.
but you need the volume. I mean, municipal vehicles potentially can do it because they have the shorter haul.
Right.
You know, long distance trucks are the trouble.
The EV doesn't make sense. So. Council update, I guess we'll have to, if Tracy shows up, then we'll get it. New business. I have one quick new business. I don't know about you all. And you'll see them, the spotted lantern flies are right now in a nymph stage.
Is that what the guys with the spots?
They're black with white spots and they do not, they do not, fly yet, but they're really, really quick. I killed probably 12 of them on my porch at my office today.
Yeah.
So with that, there are programs that are available to towns like ours. Christie, you were involved in the emails, so I'm just gonna go through it really quick and then I can have Christie send it to everybody. But there is an opportunity for a grant for up to 15,000 for treatment. Apparently, it has not been applied for from many towns. So I think it behooves us, we'll take a vote to apply for it. The drawback is, and there's always a drawback, is the chemicals that they use could be harmful to other bugs and insects and stuff that may be good for the environment, but this is do we lose trees? Because the spider lantern flies, and we're worried about other bugs? Or do we just treat it the best we can, utilizing the grant and the available, the chemicals available to the town? It wouldn't be the town administrator, from what I understand. It would be the mosquito commission, I believe. But we'll get,
outsource.
or outsource. Right. So I think from my standpoint, I think we can, I don't mind sacrificing a few other good bugs to save our trees. Without trees, we're kind of hosed. That's my opinion.
I think I probably want to know more.
Yeah,
just
me too.
Understand more about like the harmful effects, just
Yeah,
without.
Who do we talk to get more data?
Well, it's It all came about because it's a grant is available.
Right.
To municipalities on a first come first served basis, reimbursable, so the borough would perform the services and get reimbursed, but the borough doesn't do it themselves, they can hire another pest control service to do it. So, Dave Carl, who is like the man on the ground. and-
Yeah, so-
That researched it and,
So I spoke with, so Dave and, quote him, Dave, Carl from the DPW. Spoke with the Garden State Mosquito and Tick. They start at set 165 per tree for the treatment, but the volume, there's obviously a volume discount. But he did not specify, the person at Garden State Mosquito did not specify what that volume discount was.
so basically.
Neosat,
We would hit that 15,000, only getting maybe a tenth of Fairhaven trees, or what are the pockets? Teresa was also gonna reach out to her business administrator.
yeah, so if we can get some more information
Other towns.
sooner than later. Then, you know, we should.
It's
definitely look
time
at it.
critical, that's the.
Time critical.
So,
The only spots that he's seen large number of lantern flies, Third Street Trail, all the new trees. Fairhaven Fields, among the knotweed, and there has been a few by the cell tower, but minimal from what I've seen. That I've seen, like I said today, probably 15 or 20.
I think they're in my area.
Yeah, I don't see them on the trees. These were all over the ceiling above my porch and actually the black pavement.
They're on my car.
Yeah, and we had a couple of fly, jump into the Bronco today.
Has this been done in other towns? Have they had like, you know? I get, I mean, I'm for getting rid of them, obviously. I just don't like, without knowing.
What the impacts.
Yeah.
would be.
You know, unintended consequences.
It's a neo, so they, it's a neon. I don't know, here,
Is it a
It's
light or a
a-
chemical?
it's a chemical.
Neonic coat.
Whatever it is, are systemic insecticides that were used for many different pests. It was a go for grub control in the turf, so they used to use it for grub control in turf fields. They're being pushed out with a full ban starting in October, so it's not a good chemical. But it also seems to be the only
Full ban on this chemical.
in October, so if we don't do it now. So it also seems to be the only thing that works.
Just a little DDT.
It's the only thing that really works on lantern flies. So if bees do not typically have any interest in the similar trees that the lantern flies prey on. Ailanthus trees,
Alianthus.
that's it. That's the only spot, all right, so
Great.
if we treat those trees, they're usually not. The bees don't like those trees.
Well, they're invasive.
Those are invasive
They're like
trees.
the worst. invasive.
Well,
All over the place.
right, so then we don't care about the lantern flies, but then in regards to those trees, but then it's up to the town to remove all the dead trees, which is, I don't know, let's see if we can get some more information, I'll get it out, or Chris
would it
will
be
get it out
wrong-
to everybody.
I think what the
ASAP.
question I would have is, does it get into the soil and then also in the water, and is it harmful for animals? Might be like licking on there.
We get rid of the deers.
Two in one.
Yeah, the answer is yes, probably yes to everything.
I'm sure.
But on the other hand,
But
we'll
is,
take
is,
action.
I know.
is the consequences more dire than the treatment is the question.
So wait, lantern
Is
flies,
what is,
I would go.
they,
I agree, but let's, for everybody and
It
for
doesn't
ourselves,
concern me that they're saying it's being
I know,
phased out though.
but, okay,
There's
but
got a reason. to.
we know what we're up against with lantern flies. That's a known, that's a given. So is it less of a detriment to the environment to treat it? Or to not treat it and we keep on, and we're gonna continue to have
There's
no
the other
real
piece,
big
wait,
problem.
what if that they like ailanthus trees?
Yes,
Well, then you wanna get rid of those anyway.
but they like other trees too.
Yeah.
Christie
But
made a
this has
point.
been a much worse problem, like further west of here.
Yeah, it was.
It's here.
Now it's about, you know. most-
It's gonna get
What were the results of the day? Do they have, because like, I go out to like Princeton all the time, like even like by Rutgers and by, it's far worse than here.
I think it takes time for the
Philadelphia,
trees,
even like,
takes time for the trees to actually die. And
but I, you know, I don't know if they're actually dying or not, now.
I mean, I had a bunch of trees died, but I don't know if it was from these.
It's a known fact that they killed trees.
I know that they're not good for trees, but.
I know it's a known fact in the studies that and the data that I've looked at, that they kill the trees.
But Chrissy made the point that like, what percentage would this money solve that anyway? You said something, was it 10% or 20% of the trees or something? Or
I don't know how many.
We don't know.
But,
We don't know.
but
But it's free, if it's free money, if it's a grant, it's free money.
that might be killing my dog. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's a two-edged sword, but.
There would be less.
Right.
Australians in 1880, we got a few rats.
If it's $15,000 total,
Yeah.
$165 a tree, you said there's a volume discount.
Yeah.
But if it were full price, that's 90 trees.
Say it's 150.
No, but maybe they kind of match it. No, 180 trees. I don't know. I don't know. I know that by sitting on our hands and do nothing, we face a real potential problem.
I don't like the idea of an unknown risk. It's something I don't want to make a decision, do no harm.
No, I don't want to make a decision tonight. I'd like to get more information. I think that time is of the essence, because if we don't do something, it isn't gonna get better.
And one thing we can do is maybe if we, again, think about it a little bit, but get around Robin, so we can move without waiting in at least a month and a half.
Is there an expert that can come and talk to us?
Just give us some ideas.
I can forward you the letter from the state.
What is the agricultural research station of Rutgers say? They're a moral school.
Or the exterminator or whatever they're called, that would actually do it.
Well, they're gonna wanna do it.
They're gonna wanna do it,
But if I understand that.
I would talk to an arborist that has experience with lanternfly.
The New Jersey Department of Agriculture funds available to counties to battle spotted lantern flies.
But they're not dictating how you use the money. Like, this is our choice to use, or is this the only solution? I mean, are they
The
saying?
only solution.
I think Rutgers as a research station, they're an agricultural research station. They should have an opinion on this, I would think. We should just look for that.
If they're reimbursable for the supply, materials and labor for the 2023 treatment season. So it's not saying what.
They have a ornamental, horticulture program as well as like an agricultural program, so I can't imagine they haven't thought about this yet.
And also, if we, I mean, obviously we don't have to use it if we put in for the grant, but is it worth it? What's the deadline of the grant?
I think it's
October.
October?
It's first come, first served.
It's first come, first
So we
served.
don't put our
Well,
application.
from what I understand, it's not been heavily applied.
But if we could put our application in, we can still decline if we got it.
Yeah, but we probably have to
Isn't
know
that big
what
a
we're
deal?
doing.
September 1st.
We are doing it that way.
Yeah, but if we put an application in and said, hey, we want to get money, and then we'll work on the plan. And then.
I think we need more information from Teresa on the grant and the application process. Do we have to have it lined up with a contractor to? So
The
I
application is very simple.
would just do it. What's this harm in,
No, then you can decline it.
and then you can decline
If
the
you-
funds,
If it's not a huge thing to apply.
but at least we applied for it and got it. Rather
Yeah,
than
and then we
missing,
can-
rather than missing out on it 100%.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, this basically comes back to what they call integrated pest control, which is what farmers try to do to minimize, the use of
Mhm.
chemicals and. Maybe we can do it in a strategic way.
I think that makes sense.
Are there any other options though? Like, is this singularly the option?
That's the only option that I know of today,
But
unless you go out there and kill them, then it's not easy to kill them.
it's not easy to kill. No.
No.
Again, we're in Australia in 1880.
My little neighbor-
There's a rabbit, we have one or two
Oh,
rabbits.
it's brutal, and they're not easy, they're quick, so,
So there's a cost to applying with the intention that you may not use it. 'Cause
what's
it
the
might-
cost of the application?
Well, no, I'm talking about the
Time,
I'm talking about somebody else that might actually want to use it gets pushed out because we
Yeah.
took the space.
yeah.
Apparently, it hasn't been heavily applied for.
And probably for a reason that we've been talking about.
Right, but at least if we apply for it, we have that option, if we don't apply for it and then it's not there, we have no option.
We have a new grant writing group, so I guess they can.
If it's a simple process, my vote, let's take it to a vote.
They have a whole webpage, Rutgers has a whole web page on it.
Can we bring it to a vote that we apply for the grant and get more information in the meantime?
Just two things. So one I'm in favor of, one I'm not.
No, it's
So
one
your
thing
next meeting is
that we're gonna apply for the grant. All in in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
And we'll figure it out.
John? Okay. So we don't apply for it. So you're
I'm
not
not-
voting, so you're abstaining,
I'm happy to pass on any information that we find out in the meantime.
right?
I think
I
think that that's fair. I mean, if, even if we do vote in August, there should, but then it has to go to the committee. to the
Yeah, you got,
council.
you're 2 to 3 months out, and then October, you can't use this pesticide anymore.
What was the pesticide recommended?
NEONICO.
I think it's-
TIDES.
Yeah, Actura, the name of the trade name is Actura, and Rutgers puts it down as excellent.
Right, it's the only pesticide that's working, according,
This is for vineyard management,
right,
so.
it's the only pesticide
That
that's
was
working.
recommendation.
I talked to Alex today, who does all my exterminating for our buildings and homes. They don't have a process. They don't have a process today to mitigate bottom layer plots. So then don't apply for it, see what happens.
Can they ever die off?
No,
In the meantime,
Pretty much deed drive.
treatment, scalp them out.
Gene drive? Okay. Gene drive.
As
All right,
as DNA.
I have no more, anybody else have new business? Brian,
Well,
Yeah, but-
how would we apply for grant?
nobody voted, we had 2 votes, yes.
Yeah.
I think that we, to apply would then go to the council and then they'd
Yeah,
have
I'm
to
just
pass it.
wondering what the
And then-
process is.
We would have to, basically by us saying yes, we apply for it, it goes to the council. And then they approve it and apply for it, so it's not just up to us.
It's the FEC recommendation.
Right, so it's recommended right now to do nothing.
Well, it says, this is what they say.
In terms of the grant.
The hatch has begun, which indicated a critical time to knock down nymph populations with contact insecticides, with the workers.
Mhm.
So if you're a farmer in the state of New Jersey, they're
You're putting
saying
down
they want you to take action because
100%.
it's become endemic and they're trying to deal with it.
Yeah.
So,
So
you know, again, you can read it again, it's, if you just spot a land apply and reference.
my suggestion is that we apply for it, but one vote.
I mean, it's just at this point in time, they're sitting there at Rutgers, and I know they're good people there that are trying
Yeah.
to figure out what the hell to do.
Yeah, of course.
And they're in a bad, you know, they're in a bad way, because they got all these people trying to run these farms, and
Yeah.
so they're making their best
So
call.
wipe them out.
Read about the sparrow famine.
It's one of those things, right?
It
So
is.
it's-
So do we want to
Enjoy
revisit
the
it?
meeting, right?
Do we want to revisit it and run it up the flagpole to council?
I would bring it up.
You and I are in
I mean,
agreement.
I'm not opposed to that, it's, you know.
Yes,
We're not making,
yes,
we're not making
yes.
a commitment to.
No,
We don't have to.
all right, so our suggestion to the borough and council is to apply for the grant.
Michael, are you in? Because you got 3 votes right now, haven't you?
That's your raise your hand, so
I'm not saying I think we should definitely take this action.
all I'm
I
asking
think
for the
it's
vote,
okay in order to not miss the opportunity to get a
that's
start.
all I'm asking.
Process anyway.
That's all I'm asking for.
Is that
Let's
fair?
go in for the grant. We're all in agreement, or most of us are, which,
Jesse, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not, I think to go for the grant, I think it's okay to ask for it, but I don't wanna say yes, definitely do it. Yeah.
we're not,
Yeah.
all I'm asking for the vote right now is the only thing that we have definitive in front of us, because we don't have enough data to make a decision to say, okay, go ahead and spray this stuff in town, is to apply for the grant.
Mhm.
But I
Yes,
do think more research has
No.
to be done.
Mhm. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah,
yes,
no, I-
yes,
I'll
yes,
say yes.
yes.
Can you take a vote, Brian? Like a formal vote?
I would like to propose that we vote formally, all in favor,
Would you want to do a roll call?
and then roll call. Or, go ahead.
All in favor of what?
So the motion
To,
is.
the motion is to apply for the grant. That's it.
But we're not saying that we 100%.
That is, all we're doing is applying, is
It's gonna be a separate
suggesting to the Borough Council to apply for the grant of $15,000 for the mitigation or the help to mitigate spotted lantern fly.
Yeah, best practices may evolve.
So go ahead and take a roll call, please.
Michael DiMichelli,
Yes.
Kelly Flanagan is absent, Jesse Murray,
Yes.
Brian Olson,
No.
Gary Patterson,
Yes.
John Peters,
Yes.
Ryan Rice,
Yes.
Rob Winter is potentially.
We don't.
Rob, are you able again to unmute yourself?
Ralph,
The best.
yeah, he's still muted, but we have a quorum without him, correct?
Yes. But I didn't want to get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it passes to pass along the information regarding by the FEC supports.
Correct. Thank you. Any other new business? Public comment, the Fairhaven Environmental Commission welcomes comments, suggestions, and inquiries from residents of Fairhaven. You must wait to be recognized by the chair. Identify yourself, put your name, address for the record. Please limit your comments or questions to 3 minutes.
Okay, if you have a question, please raise your hand on the Zoom. There are no questions.
Anybody else have questions or concerns? We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yes.
It's always.
Good night.
When is the last time we got up before 9?
That's never. It's still fun. Right? No.
Yeah.
It's not.
We need. That's the one we're doing with yours. All right, so.